Okay, so hope everyone's doing well on a wonderful Friday night. Yes, TGIF finally, for those that still are able to celebrate Friday as an actual Friday. Not all of us have the luxury of working Monday through Friday. So if you're working like on a weekend, or if if your Friday is actually your Tuesday, and then you get Wednesdays and Thursdays off, so hopefully you'll enjoy, that'll be your TGIF. So anyway, shout out to everyone. Hope y'all are doing well. So, the last couple videos, we have built a network for a enterprise environment. So it is we're basically building a data center from scratch. We have the necessary hardware for this exercise. We set up a server. It's actually a desktop that has been built into a server, and it's a host machine running Windows Server 2016 Standard Edition with the Hyper-V Windows feature installed. So we have a physical computer, and on that computer we have our virtual machine that is actually going to be the server. That's actually going to be the server for our corporate network. So you're talking user accounts, computers, networking, policies, configurations. Everything's going to be pushed from that server. It will dictate the terms of how we want to manage our network. So let's dive in and see what it looks like here. So I wish I could actually show you the computer itself. It's kind of like a gaming desktop, but it's not, just kind of something I threw together from storage, but it's pretty nice. So this is our actual computer that we're remoted into right now on our virtual private network. This is a physical machine. And it's pretty powerful. I mean, it's not going to work. You can't throw this in a live environment, obviously. I mean, you could, but if you do, you're going to run into issues because of fault tolerance. You will not have the high availability as a standard virtual host machine would. So like a blade server with 128 core processors, 5 terabytes of storage. I mean, you want to have an actual server to run in that environment. This is a desktop tower. I mean, you can take a laptop or anything, and once you install various applications on it, and you're providing resources on your network to other computers or clients, then that computer, that laptop, will become a server. So that's kind of the difference between computer server. Computer server is just a computer that's running services, providing resources to other machines on the network. I think you get the idea. Okay, so this is our physical machine. Now you notice how it says work group here, because this is not a domain joined computer. No, it is not. Let's go to our Hyper-V manager, and you see I have 3 machines, only one running. We're going to remote into this right now. Now you notice how they look very similar? They do, because it's a machine within a machine. So this is our domain controller. We have 3 essential services running for our network right now on this server. We have Active Directory domain services that we've installed and configured. Our domain name is Contoso. We assigned a static IP address before we did anything else, and then we promoted this to a domain controller. upon installation of the Windows features that allow us to configure this virtual machine as a domain controller. And then we installed, well, DNS actually comes and it's installed with Active Directory domain services, and then you'll go in and you configure DNS. It has the default settings after you finish deploying this as a DC, but you always have to have DNS with Active Directory. And then DHCP is also a critical component. Usually you want to limit it to those services only on a domain controller, because you don't want to install remote, like remote desktop services, file services, SCSIs. I mean, you could hypothetically. I know some places, and I've done so in the past, where you can install everything on one server, and that'll be your that'll be the anchor for everything. I mean, there's actually nothing wrong with that, but there is. It all depends on the needs of your organization. I mean, if you're worried about costs and don't have the ability and the hardware and the resources to do that, and if it's a smaller environment, there could be nothing wrong with that. But what if that server goes down? You're not going to have anything to back it up. Nothing will take its place. You want to have an additional domain controller for redundancy, but you also want to split the Windows features per machine. So what we're going to do for this exercise is, I previously mentioned this, we're going to have DC1 is going to be our domain controller 1. That's this. And then D most likely be our domain controller 2. Usually it's called DC2, but in this case we're just going to do DM1. And that's going to have, that's going to be our secondary domain controller. Well, it's also going to be, there'll be a number of services installed on there, possibly ADFS. We're going to build one called FS1, that's file server 1. We're going to have Web1, which is called for our web server and our proxy, and possibly an NLB for network load balancing, so we can manage the traffic on our network. So that is why we want to split up our services. We want to make sure we're always giving. We want to go full throttle at all times. If something goes down, then that really kind of brings everything to a halt, especially in this day and age where we're so reliant on technology. Dependable. I don't even think reliance is a word. Reliant Stadium, I don't know if it's even called that anymore. Okay, so our domain, I don't know if you can see it. So we have our forest. It's called Contoso. And within that forest, we will be adding. We're not going to add a subdomain yet, or a child domain. So this will be our parent domain. And we're going to be adding objects to that forest, like computers, users. We already added users. If you remember the last video, we spent some time and went over scripting and PowerShell. So we got users and computers. We should have a bunch of users already created, all separated out by organizational units. And in this case, the states. Very good. And this makes it easier to manage your user accounts. So let's say I don't always want to remote into the domain controller. I want to perform my sysadmin tasks from my own workstation. So let's say I have a laptop, they're a MacBook, That's what I use as my company device, and that's what I use to manage the network. I don't have to be physically there. I can remote into my data center with various remote access utilities and the latest encryption software, so we're compliant and make sure we're being proactive in regards to protecting our environment from malicious threat. And that's the number one fear these days, is you got to always stay ahead. Now, how can you stay ahead? Make sure your software is up to date. If you're still running Windows Server 2008 R2, you need to upgrade. Call me. I'll upgrade it for you. Not for free, obviously, but it needs to be upgraded. Let's say you have data on that machine and you're afraid of losing it. You won't lose it. I've migrated quite a few servers within the last year or so, and they're not that bad. There's some can be tricky, but I always make sure I back them up before I do anything. That way, if I need to revert back, I can. Better safe than sorry. Make sure you're always backing things up before you do anything. So we're not going to activate this server yet because I'm using it as a trial version, but I shouldn't have done that because now it's going to slow down my network. When you install these patches, these updates, it will consume a lot of bandwidth on your network, so it's going to slow things down, which is why updates are usually pushed overnight. So let's get back to remote management. All right, let's say I need to manage this from my workstation. So right now, we're in Active Directory, and we want to go back to our forest, domain controllers. Right now, that's the only one we have, obviously. Let's see. And I did add a computer, but I think I already moved it to, yes, okay, very good. So there's a Windows 10 VM. All right, let's create a group policy that's going to enable it. See how they're both currently disabled? Remote desktop, that's the only one we want enabled. Now, I could just click disabled and enable it, but I don't want to have to do that for every single machine. So I am going to go to I've already started creating some of them. Group policy. I'm going to go new, and then I'm going to name this policy so. Now, in some instances, actually, like let's say I would be using this policy in a live environment right now, I would add security filtering and only apply this to certain computers. In this case, I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to edit. And I'm going to go to computer configuration, policies, templates, Windows components, and remote management service, and allow remote management through Windows Remote. And this is going to give me the ability to remote in using remote desktop services and PowerShell. Now you want to make sure your network is locked down before you do anything like this. And I've already went through and configured my security. I mean, it's a lab environment, so I have kind of more free range over it. So I can just squash this entire environment in a click of a mouse in a matter of seconds. All right, so yes, we're going to allow remote server management through Win Remote. Some of these other options we have, I mean, right now I'm going to stick with that. Okay, here we go. So I also want to create a rule in the firewall. And let's see if it works actually. So I'm going to apply this. Actually, you know what? We're going to apply this to our parent domain. And I'm going to quickly use PowerShell or command prompt to do a quick GPU update. Oh. And let's go back here. It might ask me to reboot it, which is typical. It's still disabled. Now I only enabled the Windows Remote Management utility. I did not actually use Remote Desktop. So I want to do that. I want to go back to administrative templates. I want to find remote desktop services. Alright, so we're going to use open up remote desktop on our network. It's internal, and we're going to be going in, adding some additional security policies and locking it down. But right now, we want to make sure that our computers are accessible remotely on our corporate network. Now, this is internally, so it won't, like, if somebody tries to hack into it from the outside, they have to bypass the firewall. First of all, they have to get through the DMZ, what's called the demilitarized zone, obviously, and that is kind of like the gap between your corporate network, your data center, and the outside world. So they're most likely going to try to get in. They'll get stuck in there, and they'll have to figure out how to proceed. And that's why it's standard. It's a very good practice to have a DMZ on any corporate network, or a proxy, or some kind of server or environment out there that's going to just give you an additional layer of security. In some instances, you can use it for single sign-on. You can use it for deploying additional apps, routing, VPN setup. You can do a number of things with that. Mainly, you want to use it just for security, obviously. So let me see. I think we're good. So now we got to go back to that same location. Actually, you know what? Let's see if it did open it up. Oh, look at that. It did. Very cool. All right. So we got the GPO working, but I do want to go back to Windows settings, security settings, and then firewall. I want to add another rule. In this case, it's going to be remote desktop. So I don't really like that rule because I want to make sure I open the specified port. So in this case, it's going to be 889. Okay, so now that port will be opened up on the network. So it's probably, you really it depends on the environment. Sometimes this practice, I don't, as long as you're not facing the internet. So let's say I want to hack into the network. Oh, I can just go to that port, but I can try to exploit. No, it's not going to work like that. No. Now, if it was directly facing the internet, so if it was not behind a DMZ or a firewall, then yes, you would be in a lot of trouble. So we have that going. All right, we can close this out. Now we have that. So now I can remote into this from another workstation. And let's try exactly that.